just got clickbaited. No, what? I thought you were better than this. Obviously, these are like my 10 favorite video game stories as random guy on the internet, number 804. But that title doesn't really hit as hard. So. Okay, obvious disclaimer aside. Hey, it's me again, and welcome back to conversations I can only have with my camera. All of my friends, me included, watch a bunch of movies and television all the time. Hell, some of them even read books. And when we talk about these things, their stories are always central to the conversation. Oh my God, this show had a crazy ending. Whoa, that movie had a crazy twist. This character's arc was really satisfying. But when my friends and I talk about the video games we play, it's never about their stories. It's always like, oh, I hit a clutch ace in CSGO, bro. Oh shit, I hit a double flip reset in Rocket League. Valorant makes me abuse painkillers. And look, I love competitive gaming as much as the next dude, obviously. I'll hop on Discord with my friends. I'll play Smash at the function. And the highs of these moments are really special. Some of my favorite gaming memories revolve around owning my friends in a 1v1 or hitting a sick clip. But I think too often for me, that is the whole conversation. And maybe I just run in like normal hot person circles where gaming isn't really talked about. Hey, hand I was dealt, man. I don't make the rules, sue me. And look, victory royales are fun. But the true peaks of gaming for me come at 4 a.m. when I'm crying holding the controller because my favorite character just died. Video game stories have the privilege and the disadvantage of being interactive. In movies and TV, sure, the pacing can be off. The writing can be bad, but all that's in front of you is the narrative. But in video games, the narrative has to make room for gameplay. So oftentimes it's the player that's the one dictating the pace of the story. Where am I right now? What is this shot? Hey, Batman, like fucking Scarecrow's gonna explode the entire East Coast with his toxin bomb, but like low-key wanna do some side missions first? I feel like he can wait. How many times have you played a single player game where the only thing keeping you around to the end is the gameplay? For me, this is too many to fucking count. A bad video game story can ruin the experience. If the best part of a game is like the gunplay or killing enemies or the combat, then it's gonna be mad annoying whenever the fucking boring story interjects itself into that and just ruins the fun. For me, and I apologize, but this is a game like Control. I thought Control's gameplay was actually pretty fun. Like the mix of like the powers and the guns, it's very intuitive. I felt powerful. And then a character opens their fucking mouth.
Helen Marshall is head of operations. She's tough, ex-CIA. She took her Rangers and went to the research sector to secure the HRA production.
Oh my God, shut the fuck up, bro. This, of course, means the opposite is true. Because video games are an interactive medium, sometimes emotional story beats hit that much harder because they are the direct outcome of the player's actions. So when you have to decide who to kill or who to save, it's so much more impactful because it's you making those decisions. Obviously, not every game can account for every outcome. This isn't fucking Dungeons and Dragons. But even the most linear video game stories have been made that much more impactful for me simply because I'm the one experiencing it. Okay. Hi. Did I lose you? We're not even into the list yet. We still have 10 whole narratives to talk about. What the fuck? Okay, I have played a lot of video games. Look at me. I also haven't played a lot of video games. So there is a phenomenal chance that your favorite narrative is not on this list. I've never played a From Software game all the way through. I haven't touched any of the fucking Metal Gear Solids yet. I haven't finished Mass Effect. I don't know anything about the Baldur's Gates. Don't worry, I still absolutely have the credentials to make this list, and I will prove that to you, trust me. Okay, I hate obvious disclaimers like that, but I have to make them because everyone's tweaking, bro. They're still gonna send assassins after me because I didn't put fucking American Truck Simulator on this list. Like, I'm gonna put my phone right on this surface. Probably get these cigarettes out of the shot, Finn. What the fuck? Okay, I think my list is a good mixture of like critically acclaimed video game stories and like really small indie ones that mean a lot to me personally. But I think the key link between all of these stories is that they're made all the more impactful by being told through the medium of video games. Interactivity and choice are like key components of all of these stories, and that is especially true of my number 10 spot on this list. It is not my favorite video game story. It is barely sneaking onto this list at number 10. But I think if we're talking about the best of the best video game stories, then it has to be in the discussion. Disco Elysium has been PC Gamer's #1 top video game of all time for the past 3 years consecutively, which is just like, holy fuck. It's a book. It's a fucking book. The climax of this intense, bleak detective thriller are 2 conversations that take about 90 minutes of reading. That is the climax of a fucking video game. And it's still one of the most referenced and praised video games of all fucking time. If that is the case, then it must be a damn good fucking story, bro. And it is. But I mean, it's not my favorite, like I said, but maybe it's the most original. You can do things in basically any order you want to. There's no 2 playthroughs of this game that are gonna be the same. Let me give you an example. At the beginning of the game, you and your partner need to get into a certain area. But in order to access that area, you need to get past somebody called Measurehead. In any other game that would claim to give you this kind of autonomy, the choices would be beat him up, sneak past him, or talk to him. This is usually the choice that most games give players. Think like Cyberpunk or like Deus Ex. And to get past Measurehead, you can do exactly those 3 things, but with a little bit of a Disco Elysium twist to it. The hardest thing to do is beat him up. You have to be incredibly strong and lucky at the beginning of the game to do that. But if you roll high, and congratulations, you're in. But you will probably fail at that and have to turn to one of the other 2 ways, which are not as straightforward. If you want to sneak past Measurehead, you have to find a child's hideout located behind the hotel you're staying in, climb up a ladder in there, and then jump to a platform from the roof of that hideout. Kinda sick. In the other games that I talked about, sneaking past an enemy is as simple as just finding the vent that's right next to them and then just strolling your way inside. Because of this intricacy that Disco Elysium has, I feel so much more cool. The many vents and doors of Cyberpunk and Deus Ex, they are spoon-feeding me the autonomy that I should already feel as the main character of a fucking video game. Similarly, in those games, talking your way through things is just comes down to having a high enough speech stat, right? I put enough points into persuasion and now I can like get into the club. To talk your way past Measurehead, you have to talk to him about his racist ideology for like an hour and then internalize that ideology for 2 in-game hours, come back to him, pass his racist quiz, and then you're in. It's like, Measurehead is a small, tiny little fraction of a massive fucking game where every single character has this level of intricacy to them. Each interaction feels so delicate and cared for. Every fucking pebble in this game has 3 paragraphs of prose written about it. It is excruciatingly detailed, and thus alive. And I think part of that is due to Disco Elysium having a script of over 1 million words. Oh my god. If you put that into book form, all of the standard margins, double spaced, yada yada yada, 4,000 pages. Go write a 4,000 page essay. I'll wait. What the fuck are they smoking? About a year ago, I made a video called I'm Tired of Open Worlds. It's a quirky one where I'm still kind of finding my style, I guess. But in that video, I talk about how Cyberpunk is an example of like a really successful open world and how it's like colorful and I want to explore it. And I still stand by that. I used to walk around in that game, just like chilling. Just take a bowl and just walk around Night City, bro. I do not be doing that in games. I have shit to do. And I must confess, despite my 80 odd hours of playtime in that game, well, I've never actually beaten the main story. I've gotten incredibly close, but it's just, there's always a point in that game where I just get tired of it. You know what I mean? The story, not the world. Obviously, when you have a world that big, you're gonna have to sacrifice some of like the intricacy and detail that Disco Elysium has. But I started skipping cutscenes in Cyberpunk Do not even get me started on Deus Ex Human Revolution, bro. The very obvious point that I'm making here is that I think focus and containment often makes narratives better. Cyberpunk has a wonderful, sprawling world to it, but that low-key detracts from how invested I am in the story. Disco Elysium has a fair amount of sprawl to it, though. It has a lot of things to do, but it feels so much more like a cohesive ecosystem than a bunch of dissegmented narrative strands. Dude, I'm tweaking right now. The point is, I love Disco Elysium for how grand its scope feels, despite being relatively contained. That's gonna be the case for about 90% of this list. I never want to be thinking or analyzing the story while I'm experiencing it. I want it to grab me. I want to not think about skipping the cutscenes. And I think that kind of story inherently lends itself to games that aren't open worlds. This brings me to the one open world game on this list. Okay, like I just said, cringe. Open worlds are so good for that grand, sense of exploration and wonder, and they're low-key shit for story. I talked about this in the intro, but how the fuck do you pace an open world story? The player can do whatever they want. They can ignore the main story for as long as they want to, so there's no real sense of urgency or stakes in these games. I will give an honorable mention to The Witcher 3. The Witcher 3 did not make the cut. It is not one of my favorite video game stories. But it does a pretty good job of combining player agency with an actually explorable open world. I like that game, and I'd wager I'm not the only one who does. But in my opinion, it does not have shit on the number 9 spot. I told you I had the credentials to make this list. Come on, these are 2 banger picks. I'm not trolling. New Vegas is often praised as the pinnacle of game design. We're talking about a sprawling world with multiple warring factions and a struggle for power that can lead to different outcomes depending on what the player does. There are tangible consequences for your actions in Fallout New Vegas. And the best part about this game is that there's never a right decision. I think a lot of games end up making choices for you. They give you the illusion of choice, but a lot of the time, it boils down to being a good guy or a bad guy, maybe sometimes a neutral guy. Oh. BioWare, the developers of Mass Effect, have literally complained about this. They designed a whole bad guy dialogue story thing, but everybody keeps picking the good guy option. Turns out it's a lot more fun to save the universe than destroy it. Surprisingly, people don't want to handle situations by being an asshole. Whoa. But this isn't surprising to me. A lot of games love to pat themselves on the back for giving the players just the most weighted decision ever. This is not the case in Fallout New Vegas, and I'll illustrate this with an example. Somewhere in the sweeping bounds of the Mojave Wasteland lies Vault 22. Most of the New Vegas wasteland is a desert, sand, canyons, the piercing hot sun, but as you approach Vault 22, the warm hues of the desert are quickly overtaken by lush greenery. One of the main ways to get here is to talk to Dr. Hildern. He will tell you that Vault 22 has completed renewable research that could help people with a food shortage. He asks you to go there, find the data, and bring it back to him so that people won't starve. But as you're leaving the building, his assistant, Angela, stops you to tell you that Dr. Hildern has contracted many others to retrieve this data, but none of them have come back alive. She also tells you that the last person to go there was a scientist named Keeley, and Angela will pay you if you find her and bring her back. We haven't even reached the vault yet, and already there's the makings of a great plot hook here. And, if you want, after learning this, you can storm right back into Dr. Hildern's office and demand he pay you double for how dangerous of a job it is. This is a great start to a side quest. Other games would never commit to this level of intricacy in storytelling. It would be as simple as going to the vault, getting what you need, and coming back. But as you approach Vault 22, something is amiss. Scrawled on the sign out front is a message that reads, "Stay out, the plants kill." And as you venture deeper, you realize that something else is in here with you. These spore carriers are all over the place in the vault. And as you learn more about the place, you realize that these are actually the vault's previous inhabitants. So, Cut to present day, and you've got a vault full of goblins and some data to retrieve. But this isn't even the best part. The scientist, Keely, she's actually still alive here, and you can totally save her. And this is where things get awesome. Keely will tell you that the vault is too dangerous, and she plans to explode the entire thing from the inside, killing every single goblin. Okay, I'm calling them goblins and not spore carriers, because fuck you, bro. Look at these motherfuckers. What she also tells you is that the data you have can't fall into the hands of people outside of the vault, or another disaster like this will happen. Here, you can do one of two things. Just kidding. Fuck you, it's Fallout New Vegas. You can do like 6 things about this. You can avoid talking to her entirely and just run out of the building. Or you can tell her the truth and destroy the data. Or you can tell her the truth but refuse to destroy the data, which she tries to kill you for. Or you can lie to her, say you don't have the data, and then just let her live. Or, holy shit, if you have enough points in the science stat, you can straight up just convince her that you need to keep the data and these mistakes won't happen again. And all of this is just some random fucking side quest that takes a fucking 0.02% of the actual game. You could just ignore all of this if you wanted to. Do you see why this game gets the praise it does? Every choice in New Vegas is an actual fucking choice. There are other open world games that commit to this level of detail, but they are few and far between. Video game stories that are this well written are rarely played out on stages that are this big, and for good reason. It's a little old. There's some 2010 jankiness to it, but I think it deserves to stand as the one open world game on this list about video game stories. Okay. How we doing? Not a bad start to the list, right? It's pretty good. Don't worry, I still have plenty of time to disappoint. This is where you and me start to diverge. I think it worked out perfectly that I started this video with like 2 inarguable, undeniable masterpieces, but it's my video. And so when I put what I'm about to put above these 2 masterpieces, we're gonna keep it civil, okay? We're gonna keep it civil and chill. Oh boy. There is a very good, plausible chance that none of you have even heard of this fucking game. It's a really small indie game that is entirely 2D about talking animals. Yo, fuck Fallout New Vegas, bro. Let's go talk to some cats. Oh, one of these. Oh, Fallout New Vegas is about warring factions in a nuclear wasteland. Disco Elysium is a dystopian crime thriller with the most original art style in gaming history. And in this one, you play as a cat. Whoa! Look, I'm trying not to like spoil these games, obviously. The goal of this video is to give my favorite video game stories the praise they deserve without downright spoiling everything that happens in them. This game is not as well written as the other 2 games that I've talked about. It's nowhere near as detailed. The characters aren't as fleshed out. The mechanics are a lot less intricate. But as a story, it hits a lot closer to home. This game is about a 20-year-old girl who drops out of college and moves back to her hometown. Her parents are begrudgingly accepting of this. Her home friends have changed while she's been away, and she has a lot of internal strife and anxiety about how aimless she is in this stage of her life. It's just a story about how these characters relate to one another until you and your friends find a severed human arm. Then it becomes a game about a lot more than just the relationships that the characters have. But like I said, I'm not here to tell you where the story goes. There are a lot of people who don't like this game. If you play this game, you won't like it as much as me. That's just how opinions work. The writing can be really edgy and apathetic. The pacing can be weird. Sometimes there's just some straight up bullshit. And still, the peaks of this game are some of the most cherished gaming memories that I have. Sometimes to love something, you just have to be in the right spot in your life. There are horrible movies that I love because I watched them at really special times in my life with the people that I love. And sometimes That's all it takes. I'm not calling the story bad by any means. In fact, I'm kind of purposely underselling it. There are undeniable masterworks like Fallout New Vegas and Disco Elysium. And then sometimes you just play a small little game at the right time. This brings me to number 7. Okay, I woke up 10 minutes ago. It's raining in LA. I have Zoom class in 30 minutes. We're gonna figure it out. Like most people, I have a love-hate relationship with horror games. When I was 15, I played Outlast for the first time, and it took me 3 weeks to beat. I had to like psych myself up to re-enter the game every time. I thought it was terrifying. And as soon as I beat the game, something kind of weird happened. Over the course of the next 2 years, for whatever reason, I started speedrunning it. I wasn't even doing the short 10-minute any percent speedrun. I was doing the full glitchless, no S+Q, full run of the game. And over the course of a couple years, I turned that 3-week time into 53 minutes. If you speedrun Outlast, which I'm sure is all of you, if you speedrun Outlast by today's standards, a 53-minute PB in glitchless is low-key ass. I think, in a way, by speedrunning Outlast, I kind of conquered my fear of horror games. Don't get me wrong, I still absolutely shiver in me timbers. There are still games that get me hard. What? Pause. But I think through age and experience, I'm far less scared of horror games than I once was. And in that process, I have realized something. Dude, horror games have shit stories. Dude, why does every horror game story suck? I think Outlast story is okay. It gets the job done. But I've played so many horror games since I first played Outlast in high school. Dude, like, none of them have stuck with me. Look, I love the Resident Evil games as much as the next gamer dude, reporting in. I love the Resident Evil games, but they're not good stories. I think they're attempts to explain the gameplay and give like context to the zombie killing. Layers of fear. Bad. Evil within. Evil is mid. Do not even get me fucking started on Five Nights at Freddy's. Horror games are always scary first and stories second. But what would happen if you focus on the story first and let the scary atmosphere come as a byproduct of the story? That's how you get my number 7. Soma isn't that scary. Fear is subjective, of course, but I think the horror from this game comes a lot more from the atmosphere. Soma is a game about a dude from Toronto. Dude, I haven't even edited this part yet. I already know I'm putting Drake on the screen. Some dude from Toronto goes to a doctor's appointment and then wakes up on a research base on the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. Whoa. This game took me like 8 hours to beat on my first playthrough. I stayed up till 4 a.m. beating this game in one sitting because I just had to know what happens. The way this story unravels and then keeps unraveling, M. Night Shyamalan who? The twists and turns this story takes gave me fucking whiplash, dude. Soma opens with a quote from science fiction writer Philip K. Dick, which makes sense for a game that is far more sci-fi than horror. The horror in Soma doesn't always come from the monsters that are chasing you. It's like the horrors of the story. What does it mean to possess consciousness? What defines existence? Who's allowed to be considered alive? These are just some of the questions Soma explores, and it's not exactly optimistic. I think it makes sense that this game came from the same company that made Amnesia. Those games have their moments. They're far more horror than story, in my opinion, but those games are fucking scary, dude. And again, I'm not saying Soma isn't scary. They will exploit your thalassophobia, and you will not be happy about it. But this isn't a horror game that I keep playing out of some horrific challenge to myself. This is a horror game I keep playing because I have to know what fucking happens. I have to see how Simon and Catherine's story ends. And by the time it does, my fucking brain is split wide open. There is fun sci-fi, and there is dumb sci-fi. And I think Soma strikes that perfect balance between the two to make this ridiculous, awesome little story. This game has overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam out of thousands. It is no longer the small indie game it used to be. But I want to see more horror games that do this, that commit to the story in this way. Because Soma is terrifying, but that's because of its story and that fucking teleporting guy. That cortisol is not good for my heart. When I think about my favorite horror movies, It's always the movies that prioritize the narrative over the scares, something which I have talked about at length on this channel before. And when I think about my favorite horror games, they follow the same rules. I love Soma. I think how popular of an indie horror game it is just is a testament to how good of a story it is. And you will have to suspend your disbelief, but this game is fun, ridiculous. It's not stupid, ridiculous. It's fun, it's scary, and it's what most horror games should aspire to be, in my opinion. Okay, I'm gonna get the fuck out of this parking lot, dude. Holy shit. Why do I film in public? Why do I film in public? Why do I film in... Holy shit. Every time I do something with mirrors, I start tweaking. This is a crazy shot. You can see the phone that I'm holding. Oh my god. Oh my... Do you remember right before I talked about Night in the Woods when I said we were diverging? I hit you with 2 bangers out the gate, and then I hit you with 2 random-ass personal picks. All I'm saying is if you're starting to question my credibility, you are in luck, because my number 6 pick is heralded as one of the most disappointing video game stories that has ever been written. I'm sorry. So if your faith in me is starting to falter, my bad. But I don't know, man. My number 6 pick is Detroit Become... No, I'm kidding. Could you imagine? Holy shit. It's so much worse. Now you're really shaking your head. This fucking guy hasn't even played Metal Gear Solid. Here he is putting Firewatch as the 6th best video game story of all. Like, fuck off. What if we went back to how you felt about me when... I'm on my bed right now, so I'm like, What if we went back to how you felt about me when you only knew what the first 2 games on this list were? What if we did that? Yeah, just wait until you see my number 5 pick. It can get a lot worse. Firewatch is what happens when a medium evolves. Sometimes when I write sentences like that in the script, I'm like, I should just make Mr. Beast videos. When a medium evolves. Like, what the fuck does that mean? Firewatch is the one story on this list that I don't think has to be a video game. I think Firewatch is the most impactful version of itself in the form of a video game, but is probably almost as impactful, if not as impactful, in like movie form or book form or something. But it is a video game at the end of the day. And for a video game about running away from your problems and escapism, thematically, I think it's the best way to tell the story. When I say this game represents the evolution of video games, I mean it in 2 ways. I think how cinematic it is has proven how close the line between movies and video games has gotten. And I also mean, like, 20 years ago, dude, nobody would make a 6-hour meditation in the Wyoming wilderness video game. That's a great idea. Like, can you imagine Nintendo making Ocarina of Time in the 90s and then following it up with this? No. Low-key, no. I'm falling. Firewatch is the product of an amazing indie studio having an amazing idea, and that's way more commonplace in today's gaming landscape, right? When Firewatch came out, I want to say, here we go. 2016. Yeah! Did I get the month too? June of 2016. When this game came out, it exploded. And rightfully so. It's an incredibly well-written and personal narrative in a sea of like really shitty characters and like horribly video gamey writing tropes. And it still managed to disappoint the entire gaming population. So if you'll excuse me, I would love to briefly discuss the ending of Firewatch with spoilers. Okay, throughout all of Firewatch, you are talking to Delilah at the other end of your radio, which only really emphasizes how well this game is written. Because the only other character you have to keep you company for this whole game is a disembodied voice at the other end of a walkie-talkie. So, naturally, when the summer is over, the game ends, and your Firewatch is complete, it would make sense to have a reunion with these 2 characters. This never happens. Delilah says a few parting words over the end of your radio, takes the next helicopter out of the woods. That's that. This is the best ending that this game could have. Look, Firewatch is a game about running away from your problems. Henry can't hide in the Wyoming wilderness forever. Eventually, he has to come to terms with his dementia-stricken wife in the real world. So, when you're robbed of proper closure with Delilah, that makes sense because she represents this kind of comfort and security that comes with that kind of escapism. Similarly, in her view, you represent the security and comfort of running away from your problems. So, her being so eager to leave is her simultaneously facing her fears and running away from a new problem in the form of you. The whole game has been leading up to this climax, and when you find out what happened with Ned and his son, you realize that he represents a full-fledged dive into this kind of escapism and losing your mind because of it. And when you indulge in such a retreat, life passes you by. And in the end, you're left with nothing but your own regrets. Damn bars, bro. Look, like half of my list, this game isn't for everyone, but it's certainly for me. I've beaten this game 3 times. And every single time I do, I beat it in one sitting. I know what happens. I know how Henry and Delilah's story ends. I know they don't get closure. I know the twist ending with Ned and his son. And I still fall in love with it every time. I fall in love with Delilah, just like Henry does. I fall in love with the Wyoming wilderness and the pitfalls of pleasure that it represents. But most importantly, I fall in love with the story. Because at the end of the day, it's an incredibly personal story that I relate to. And speaking of such stories, number 5, ladies and gentlemen. All right. We are halfway through the list. I'm outside. There's like engines. Here is how the rest of the list is going to work. The top 3 games on this list are bangers. You're gonna disagree with them being the best video game stories of all time. That's just how opinions work. But you're gonna understand why I think they are the best video game stories of all time. Okay, but the next 2, shmeep shmop. The next 2 games on this list are small indie games that you maybe have heard of. So if you're looking for like, oh my god, Elden Ring, oh my god, Modern Warfare 2, then you're going to want to skip to the last 3 games on this list. They're all big games in their own right, but these next 2 are very small. All right. I can't believe I'm telling you to skip my video. Yo, real Finian subscribers are going to sit here and watch me pontificate about indie games. Let's go. Originally, I wasn't going to put Oxenfree on this list, which is a crazy statement to begin my number 5 pick with. But over the summer of last year, they released Oxenfree 2. So, coming in at number 5 on the list is Oxenfree and Oxenfree 2. Both of them. That's right. I'm cheating. Never in my life have I seen a piece of media do what these games do. Your knowledge and your investment in that first game is directly linked to how they're able to emotionally manipulate you in the second. But what makes these games for me, and you're gonna disagree with this, look, they're filled with flaws. The writing can be pretty cringe, but there's just something about that voice acting, man.
Listen to me. You have to turn it off. Do you understand me?
Wait. What is that? Do you see that?
What the hell just happened? I think we might be stuck in a loop. What's this?
Looks like the cult had a seance.
This isn't for you. We've done this before.
Without spoiling what these games are about, these games would not be on this list if it wasn't for Oxenfree 2. Thematically gorgeous, visually perfect, emotionally driven, these games are what the heart of storytelling is all about. And the fact that this is one big unified story over the course of 2 games with 2 entirely different groups of characters, Dude, you just don't get narratives like this. Like I said, there's a lot of smaller writing things that I would have changed. There's like a millennial quirkiness, for lack of a better term, that kind of seeps its way into the writing sometimes. Look, if it's a Finian 10, it's gonna be a U7, maybe 6, depending on who you are. And who I am is somebody who's a sucker for these kinds of vibes. Oxenfree is a coming-of-age story. It's a horror novel. It's a time travel adventure, and it's all wrapped in this cozy blanket of the Pacific Northwest. The imagery is stunning. The characters are lovable. Do not get me started on the score. SCNTFC did a great job. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Skitafika. I pronounce it scientific. Dude, I was able to get my hands on like a limited edition vinyl of the first game's soundtrack. That has nothing to do with the video. I just wanted to flex, I guess. Play these fucking games. They are some of the best things to happen to gaming in a while for me. And it sucks that I've literally never met anyone who's like, yo, Oxenfree? Like, bro, these games deserve to be praised. I'm in the light now. They deserve to be talked about and praised way more than most games. And I promise I won't cheat and include 2 games in the same spot again. What if I included 2 games in this spot? Okay, number 4 is kind of a weird one.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Oh, that looks beautiful from here. It has a stark beauty all its own.
If you're like me and you were around during like the early internet Let's Play craze of the 2010s, then you fucking know this game, dude. PewDiePie, Markiplier, Cryotic, rest in peace. All of the big names in Let's Playing played this fucking game when it came out. And it kind of blew up back then. Because the one thing this game was associated with was all of these popular YouTubers crying. To the Moon is an RPG Maker game, which if you don't know what that means, it means it looks like this. So here we have this old-ass looking game where there's barely any gameplay, and you walk around talking to people. I think more so than any other game on this list, To the Moon has nothing to rely on but its story. It doesn't have amazing graphics to pull you in and immerse you. It doesn't have a satisfying gameplay loop to keep you coming back. It just tells you a story. So for it to have the impact that it had on the internet in 2011, then it must be a pretty good story. I live next to a firehouse. A firehouse. Sounds like where they make pizza. If you don't know what this game is about, it has a very, very simple yet fascinating premise. 2 scientists have a job where they visit people who are about to die, travel through their memories, and grant them one final wish. They go into the patient's brain, change their memories around to fit whatever wish they have, fame, riches, you name it, and then they make that person think they lived that life before they died. Kinda nutty, bro. Pretty simple, pretty awesome. In my opinion, these games were a more complex version of something like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Finding Paradise, the sequel, is like just as good. Some people like it more, which is totally fair. They're both phenomenal stories. What was that? I don't think I've cried harder at any other game. These are the games that run the waterworks for me. It's not even that they're overly depressing. I mean, they're soft, really somber meditations on what it means to be alive. There's a 3rd game in this series, Imposter Factory. I haven't played it yet. I hear it's on the same level of quality though, so I'll make sure to bring the tissues. The last thing I'll say before we move on to the big 3 is please nobody buy the movie rights to this. Just give me like 30 years. I'll do it justice. I'll make a banger trilogy of movies. Don't worry about it. No, just nobody buy them, okay? Okay, let's get down to business. Congratulations on making it to the top 3. Yay. If you skipped here, fuck you. Hater. I'm just kidding. It's a long ass video. I'm going to do things my way and take a pause here to give out some honorable mentions. These are stories that I love but didn't make the cut, but you should still experience them because they're dope. First up is Hotline Miami. The last 3 chapters of this game blew my mind as a kid. I really like how abstract and interpretive the storytelling is in that game. Speaking of abstract and interpretive, I would have to fucking kill myself if I didn't include my favorite video game of all time on this list. Hyperlight Drifter. It's my favorite game. It's my favorite score. It's my favorite whatever. It's probably one of my favorite stories ever told. But it's not like explicitly told to you. It's very interpretive. We're not going to get into it. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, specifically the first third, specifically the quest line that revolves around this woman. If you know, you know. Okay. Celeste. The dialogue in Celeste can be a little cringe at times, but like the whole overarching metaphor of the mountain, it's a little on the nose, but it's universally applicable and awesome. But I think most importantly, this is a landmark game for the queer community, which is amazing. Lots of really little important moments that take place in this game. Awesome stuff. Uncharted 4. Well, shit. Uncharted 4, because it's Uncharted 4. That game fucking rules, bro. Don't even get me started on chapter 11. It wouldn't be me if I didn't put BioShock Infinite on this list. Is it needlessly complicated? Yes. Does it fall apart if you think about it for too long? Also, yes. Is it the most fun I've had in a video game since Dishonored? Also, yes. I'm gonna give my last honorable mention to Shadow of the Colossus. Just a really nice background story, not really central to the game, but I like how it progresses. Okay, now I'm gonna do something that I don't often see in these kinds of videos, which is I'm gonna piss you off. Here are a few games that did not make the cut. These are games that I've played that did not make the list on purpose. You might be wondering where some of these are. I'm here to tell you that they did not make the conversation, starting with Halo. I didn't play these games in their heyday. I didn't experience them when everybody else did when they were coming out. I just don't have a nostalgic connection with them, and I low-key think the gunplay is really monotonous. Sorry. Far Cry 3. Spoilers for Far Cry 3 in 3, 2, 1. As soon as you kill Voss, this game goes down the shitter. Point is nowhere near as compelling as Voss is, and Far Cry 5 is a better game. Fuck you. Skyrim. I mean, it's Skyrim. I feel like nobody's mad that this one didn't make the cut. What, are you gonna put it over Fallout New Vegas? No. Spec Ops: The Line. Dude, people suck this game's dick so hard. It has like a pretty cool story that's ruined by the most boring gunplay imaginable. It's mid. I'm sorry. Undertale. I love Undertale. Doesn't deserve to be on the list. I'm sorry. Life is Strange. One of the coziest atmospheres ever created in gaming history. It's about all it's good for. Okay, fuck all that. Who cares? We have 3 more stories to talk about. If you know me personally, which is a good portion of my audience, I am not very popular on this website, but if you know me, even if you don't fucking know me, my number 3 spot on this list is like the one that most people I think are expecting me to talk about. And here it is, bro. We're finally here. I think this is the game that I've talked about the most on this channel, which is why it's kind of a shoe-in for this list. If you're tired of hearing me talk about this game, that is super fair. I'm also gonna rant about it for another good while. So strap in, ladies and gentlemen, because it's time to talk about the GOAT. Fuck this stupid, slow cinematic bullshit. Let's get hyped. What haven't I said about this game already? Here's something I haven't said. When I was 11, my dad went to Target. When I was 11, my dad went to Target and I wanted him to get me the Amazing Spider-Man game for the Wii because I was a massive Wii kid. And when he got back from Target, he had it. I was super pumped. I have always loved Spider-Man. But he also brought back Portal 2 for PC because the guy in the electronics section said it was fire. I had a shitty Dell laptop that barely ran Minecraft. And also, it wasn't Spider-Man. And also, I didn't know what Steam was. And playing games on the PC? What am I, cool? I have a fucking Wii. So, naturally, I played the shit out of Amazing Spider-Man for the Wii. And Portal 2 sat on the back burner for a little while. To be completely honest with you, I could not tell you shit about that Amazing Spider-Man game for the Wii. I had to look up what Spider-Man games came out around that time. And even now, I'm like 70% sure that was the one that I played. I have beaten Portal 2's story 6 times. I can tell you every single major story beat that happens in chronological order. It is fantastic. This game has been a part of me for as long as I can remember. The past decade of my life has been spent talking and thinking and playing the shit out of this fucking game. The jump from Portal 1 which can be beaten in like 30 minutes if you know what you're doing, to this masterpiece in storytelling is not only crazy and ambitious, but it also makes sense. There are 3 characters in this story. Technically 4. One of them doesn't say a fucking word the whole time. One of my favorite sections in any video game ever will always be Old Aperture. The juxtaposition between the clean, sterile nature of the first game and the overgrown, dilapidated aesthetic of the second one. Perfect. Cave Johnson is one of the best video game characters of all time, and we never see him. And J.K. Simmons is amazing. He's a wonderful human, and he gives one of the best voice acting performances of all time. But if we're talking about voice acting in this game, Stephen Merchant as Wheatley. Look, Ellen McLean does an incomparable job as GLaDOS. I have talked about that character to death on this channel. But dude, Wheatley, he's rife with early internet writing tropes, but he is an amazing fucking character. One of the greatest video game characters to ever do it, in my opinion. Fuck you. If you play video games, you've played this guy. I don't need to tell you to go check out Portal 2. Like I do with To the Moon and Oxenfree. But I do want to re-emphasize how much this game means to me personally, which is all you can ask for with a list like this. I've seen this game get some pushback in recent years, which is fair. There are some parts of it that haven't aged the best, but it will always be one of the greatest of all time for me. Okay, there's the GOAT. The GOAT conversation is over now. Number 2 is a fucking doozy. Okay, this is the one that you can't disagree with. You can pretend like you don't like this. You can pretend like this narrative is bad, but if you go on fucking Google and look up top 5 video game stories, this one makes like every single list. And here I am, being wholly unoriginal and putting this as my number 2 best video game story of all time. Here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna talk to you about how awesome this game is. You're gonna agree with me because it's heralded as one of the best video games ever made. And then I'm gonna show you my number 1 spot, and you're gonna fucking unsubscribe. I think I'm probably the only person on the planet who likes this game better than this game. But fuck you, bro. It's my video, and you made it this far anyways, so you're at least a little bit curious. Okay, let's do it. I have not seen the TV show. I might watch it. It looks pretty good. But if I just wanted to experience this story again, I would just play the fucking game. The first time I beat this game was over COVID, and I beat the entire thing in 48 hours. I didn't even play this game when it came out, bro. I got a PS4 in 2019. I was really late to the party. But I didn't really know the story of this game when I played it. And so I went in kind of blind. And I never looked back. The opening moments of this game where you play as Joel's daughter, Sarah, I think that's her name, probably the best opening to any video game there has ever been. They made the cleanest opening to any video game ever made, dude. And they take that momentum, and they just never lose it. This is an incredibly dense story. You are introduced to countless characters and locations. You're trekking across the entire country during a zombie fucking apocalypse. And it's still one of the most meticulous and cared for narratives ever. This is where I have a confession to make. I haven't played the second one. I'm not on some fucking, oh, Neil Cuckman made it too woke, put too many gay characters in the, like, who, that discourse was so cringe. I just didn't feel the need to, bro. I watched the Jakey video. I watched the Donkey video. I got both sides of the argument. That was enough for me. I love the ending of the first game. It's a great closer to one of the best stories ever told. And for whatever reason, I was fine just reading and watching stuff about the second game. I'll probably play it eventually, just like I'll eventually watch the show. But nothing is gonna top that first game, man. Come on. Joel and Ellie are they're my friends. I hang out with them. Their chemistry is some of the best chemistry in all of fiction, bro. Beyond how well they're written. And the writing team at Naughty Dog absolutely deserves their kudos for that. But dude, the life that Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson bring to these characters, just fucking two of the best voice acting performances ever. Every character in this narrative earns their place. It's dark, it's bleak, but it's never pointlessly so. It earns that sheer relentlessness that it has because of how fucking well it's designed and how seamless the story and the gameplay weave together to make one of the most cinematic gaming experiences of all time. There is not another game like The Last of Us, bro. I think it makes sense that the most successful cinematic adaptation of a game belongs to this game. Look, this is a narrative that would be effective in any medium, but you know, bro, you know this is a narrative that needs to be played rather than seen. This is a narrative you have to be in the driver's seat for. I can't praise this game enough. Nobody can. And I can safely say that it deserves the title of the second best zombie apocalypse story that has ever been made. Uh-oh. Wouldn't it be so boring if we all had the same opinions? I think it's awesome that I can be like, Interstellar is mid, and then you can pull out your Glock 19 and shoot me in the forehead. We all have things that we connect with. And in my opinion, some of that doesn't have anything to do with the media itself. There's something to be said about media just catching you in the right time in your life. And all of a sudden, because of the circumstances, it's one of your favorite things ever. My favorite video game story of all time is Telltale's The Walking Dead. Some of you are shaking your fist at your monitor right now, just cursing me for putting this on the list at all, let alone above The Last of Us, let alone at number 1. Telltale is a company that's had a very tumultuous and controversial history, and for good reason. They oversaturated their own genre and could never live up to the hype of their early works. But I think this story, which is considered to be their magnum opus, is a miracle. The Walking Dead game consists of 4 seasons. Season 1 came out in 2012 and is widely regarded as the best season in the franchise. And I agree with that. It's a phenomenal season. But if it was just that season, it obviously wouldn't be number 1 on this list. It's the best season that Telltale has ever produced, but what makes it so special is the culmination of all 4. Telltale gets a lot of shit for making their games just void of actual gameplay. You're just watching it. They call their fucking games seasons, for crying out loud, like it's a fucking TV show. But even with all that, and I agree with a lot of those criticisms, still one you gotta play, dude. There is only one consistent thing in all 4 seasons of The Walking Dead, and that is the character of Clementine. You play as a variety of different characters doing a variety of different things, but the one consistent is that you're watching it through the lens of this young girl growing up over the course of a fucking zombie apocalypse. You play as her in seasons 2 and 4, but in seasons 1 and 3, she's just a character to be interacted with. I think you can do something similar in a TV show, but it would have nowhere near the same impact. I think playing as her in season 2 and then like using that to have this emotional moment in season 3 where she saves your ass, it's fucking badass. I was just playing as her. What? I'm not going to do a spoiler discussion of these games right now, but I could go on and on about how the parallels between seasons 1 and 4 are so poetic, but season 2 is my favorite season, but season 3... we don't really talk about season 3 in this house. I'm not going to do that. That's not the purposes of this video. If you've played these games, you either hate me or you understand. You know that hole in your chest that's left after you watch like an amazing TV show that you binge? You watch all 5 seasons of an amazing show, and as soon as it's over, it's like, what do I do with myself? That was me with these games. Clementine's story is bleak, brutal, relentless, and there are still such human moments of beauty in these games. Other Telltale games absolutely fall into the trap of shallow writing and forced choices. Dude, the amount of times I had to pause this game and just think about what the fuck I was gonna do. This game literally had me pacing around my fucking room, trying to rationalize myself into a good decision. But there are no good decisions. It's always just the lesser of 2 evils. Fuck. We follow this one woman for 8 years, but we only visit her when there's something crazy interesting happening on her journey. And on top of all of this narrative brilliance, it's an impossible game that low-key shouldn't exist. In September of 2018, Telltale Games CEO Pete Hawley made an announcement that he was firing 90% of the company and they were shutting down. They kept a skeleton crew of around 25 people to like finish the games that they had promised other companies that they were making, like the Netflix Minecraft story mode version, underrated ass game, by the way. That shit slaps. But that was it. The 90% that were fired were given 30 minutes to collect their things and no severance pay. Nice. The voice actress for Clementine literally found out about this halfway through a recording session, and they had to end that session for the day. It was incredibly unprofessional, to say the least. 90% of that workforce equated to about 250 people. And 3 days after they made that announcement firing everybody, Telltale Games found themselves in a class action lawsuit against those 250 people because California state law requires at least 60 days notice in the event of a mass layoff. That didn't happen. Naturally, people were very angry, and Telltale's stock in the minds of gamers plummeted. 2 days after that lawsuit was filed, the skeleton crew at Telltale Games released episode 2 of The Walking Dead's final season. That's right, they shut down halfway through making the final season of the game, which is in conversation with season 1 as the best season that Telltale has ever produced. It is high-key a miracle that the last season of the game even exists. Further miraculous that the ending is as phenomenal as it is. This is maybe my favorite ending to any story ever told. Maybe except for my favorite movie. The last episode of the last season of The Walking Dead is a remarkable feat in storytelling. And I can't believe that they released it when the company was in the state that it was in. Like I have said over and over again in this video, this is my list. Your list is gonna look so much different, probably with a lot less random-ass indie games on it, but every single one of these experiences has reminded me why I fell in love with gaming in the first place. It is so much more than just escapism. It's a fucking lifestyle. These are worlds and characters that deserve to have their stories told by you, the player, fuck ass. And I have so many more movies to watch and games to play and books to read. But it's just not feasible in this one life that we have to experience everything that is amazing. But in my opinion, that makes the moments that we do connect with these characters in these worlds so much more special. I am happy that I have so many more stories in front of me I have yet to experience. And hopefully one day, I will be able to tell stories that reach people the same way these stories have reached me. But until then, I'm gonna keep making these shitty-ass YouTube videos. Hey, yo. I don't care about making this a good shot. You can see how messy my room is. It's the end of the fucking video. Sue me. I haven't showered in like 2 days. Look how greasy I am, bro. I'm disgusted. I'm fucking drinking on a Tuesday. Bro, I just edited for 8 hours. Let me have something. Why the fuck did I make this video? It's gonna get 200 views. I've never spoken in these credit sections before. I always have these weird ass credit sections at the end, but like, usually it's just like me fucking around and like smoking a cigarette because I'm so cool. Dude, it's fucking 1 a.m. on a Tuesday. I don't know where I was going with that. Oh my god, though. That was so long. That was an hour. What the fuck? My next longest video before this is 36 minutes. Did you have fun with that video? Please say yes. Please, bro, please. That's all I have. I feel like this video would be so much cooler if I like put like God of War and like Dark Souls on it and like Cyber, like all these popular ass games, bro, and everyone's like, what the fuck is Oxenfree? I don't know, man. I had some fun making this video that's super long about really niche bullshit. This year, 2024, is gonna be such a good year for this channel. You actually have no clue, dude. You're a doubter. You're freaking doubting right now. I got hella funny, stupid bullshit ideas that I'm gonna make. I'm gonna make them, you guys. I'm gonna make them. I promise there's not gonna be a massive gap between this video and the next one. It's been like 2.5 months. Dude, isn't that shot in the To the Moon section crazy though? Am I tripping? I feel like that's a crazy shot with the color correction too, and my hair's like kind of light and it's like complementary colors with the blue color grading that I did. What am I talking about? Dude, thank you so much for just like, I don't know, bearing with me, I guess. I don't know. I'm just happy that I have like some people who care about what the fuck I'm doing in this corner of the internet over here. And it's really nice to read all y'all's comments and stuff. You guys are very supportive. Just tripped over like 3 words there. Follow me on Twitter. I'm trying to get more followers than bots right now. The bots, I think, are winning. I don't know. I've been rambling for too long. I gotta, like, fucking smoke weed and go to sleep. Thank you so much for fucking sticking around this long, dude. I don't know. There's gonna be a bunch of random-ass, fun, shorter videos coming out, so keep an eye out. And I'll see you in the next one. Okay, take care. Goodbye now. I'm doing the Ludwig where he waves for like 15 seconds at the end of every one of his videos. And then he makes it awkward and he keeps talking to the camera. And you don't really know when it's going to end, but it might cut to black sometime or it might not. That's the beauty of it, isn't it? Goodbye now. Take care. Love you.